Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. This is Tony, and you're listening to a brand new episode of Comic Conversation, the podcast that reviews more comics than anybody else. Episode 189, where we talk all things comics for the week of April 12th, 2017. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Alex. Alex, how are you doing today?
Everybody dance.
As long as we're going straight into news, we have a couple of retractions and a couple of following up on stories. Let's start off one of our corrections here. I said it was the president of Indonesia that the Muslim populace was protesting against. It was just a governor.
The story I read said president.
Really? Because I just thought I imagined that, but it would not surprise me if we read another article where it mentioned the president. But specifically, the protests that were mentioned, the one that was making reference to in the X-Men Gold issue, that referred to the governor.
Right, and I then pointed out we don't actually know how the government in the Philippines is organized, so I don't know how much power a governor has.
But to me, that makes it worse, the protest, because it's like you're going to organize this much just because of one governor who happens to be a Christian?
Well, but again, you don't know how much power a governor has. Like, there could be, like, two governors.
That is true.
Yeah, so...
A shout out to Eric for pointing that out, and then Leighton also pointed out on YouTube that part of the quote that we mentioned, we left a vital part out, or the news story that I quoted left a vital part out. You should not join the Christians and Jews that mock your religion.
Yeah, so that actually completely changes things a little bit. Like, okay, so the reason the guy got fired, it wasn't because he put he believes different. It wasn't because he put a message from the Quran in. It was because he put a message from the Quran in. He hid it in. He didn't tell anyone. It had nothing to do with the plot of the comic, and it did not. That was the issue. It was like he was using it in a Marvel comic to, like, push his own political agenda. Mm-hmm. We had thought it was like an incredibly bigoted line, but it turns out it's not.
No, but the thing is, he could have easily done damage control and just said, "Oh, this is the full quote. This is what I meant by it." But
he did not do that.
No, and in fact, here's how the internet won't let this guy go. So he breaks ties with Marvel for whatever whatnot, and it leaves
they fired
left
him.
off. I don't know that they fired him. I think he may have just voluntarily
He said he was fired.
Did he?
Yeah, he said he was fired.
Okay, well,
I don't think Marvel ever said they fired him.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know if anyone formally came out and said they fired the guy.
Well, he's not going to be working there anymore.
Well, here's the thing. The follow-up here is apparently he did an interview with a local newspaper, and initially he said, his last statement was, it was a thing of love and whatnot. But someone was able to track down the article and give us a translation of what exactly he said in the article. And it was pretty damning.
Yeah, because it was like a Muslim-focused paper or periodical that he was speaking in. So I don't.
He's quoted on saying, "Marvel is owned by Disney. When Jews are offended, there is no mercy."
Which, saying that Disney is all Jews is a little. Well, it's been said before, but not usually by nice people.
And that's not even the cherry on top. To top it all off, on his
picture? On
his personal Facebook, he is shown with a photo of the leader of the hardline Islamic Defenders Front, FPI. And it's like, that really doesn't help. And it doesn't help that they're known for hate crimes and religious related violence.
Yeah, because if people will remember from last week, I didn't defend him so much, but I thought, let's not rush to judgment here. Like, we don't understand all the issues. He's kind of coming off like he hates Jews now. A little bit.
Just a little bit?
Or
just because
kind of a lot.
He doesn't mind being, taking a photo with someone who has links to hate crimes and religious related violence.
Yeah. Maybe he didn't know. I mean, my picture's probably been taken with people, and I don't know all their beliefs, right?
It's my personal belief that the best defense for anything is always you're just stupid, because no one can get mad at you for being stupid.
Well, the thing is, though, he doesn't work with Marvel anymore.
No.
Like, he's not really going to be in the public eye, so he doesn't have to defend shit.
And he did a little bit of damage control. I mean, mind you, he did salt the earth, but he was able to at least reach out an olive branch to his fellow Indonesian writers. He said, just don't do this, and Marvel won't give you a hard time, because he's all, yeah, Marvel's
owned by the Jews,
owned by Disney, and obviously there's some Jewish people in there. But the thing is, they let him work for the company, so they're not all bad. And they pretty much told the other artists that as long as you don't do stuff like this, they won't fire you. Like, they don't have a vendetta against you. So I purposely went out there and picked a fight with Disney, and I lost. And as long as you don't do anything, as long as you're not as brain dead as I were, nothing will happen to you.
Yeah, well, his thing was he admitted he made a mistake in doing it. He did not apologize for doing it.
No, not at all.
He just said as a career move it was a mistake, which I don't know, the intellectual honesty of that I sort of respect. Like, he's not going, well, fuck them for firing me. I was using, my First Amendment rights.
Oh yeah, and it wouldn't shock me if they fire more Indonesian writers. It was a racist thing. That's why they're going after me.
Like, he flat out said the only reason they fired me was because I did this. Like, which says to me he's not an idiot. Like,
well, the quote, when the Jews are offended, there's no mercy.
If he was okay, here's the deal.
And then the photograph.
I don't want to for this, but if he was raised in a culture that was a little anti-Jew, then it does not necessarily make him an idiot if he is still immersed in that culture to make a statement like that. He showed he wasn't stupid. Like, you could make the argument that if you're racist, you're stupid. But if you're racist and you've never known anything different, then you're not necessarily stupid. You're just lacking in knowledge. And he showed enough clear-headedness to understand why he was fired and not immediately say, Marvel's run by the fucking dirty Zionists and we need to blow them all up. Like, he never said anything like that.
Well, to me, taking the photo with the guy who may actually kill.
I told you he may not know. I don't know.
You're giving the man a lot of leeway, considering
I tend to do.
He's done nothing to deserve it.
I feel bad for a lot of what has happened to both Muslims around the world and sometimes Muslim Americans in America. So while I fully admit some of them may have those leanings, I honestly believe the majority do not. So I like to give them a little bit of leeway. That's all.
Okay. I think that's how we're going to put a pin in that story.
And we should talk about comics.
I'm hoping there's no further development in the story and this is the end of it, but you never know. Considering the way it ended last week, I thought that'd be the last we'd be talking about this.
The next quote from him is going to be Allah Akbar before he blows himself up at fucking Marvel headquarters.
Probably going to edit that off the show now.
I'll feel pretty bad about that. Really? Because when you put this up on YouTube, that'll be the funniest fucking image. You could do some Photoshop. That might be libel.
Just a little bit.
Just a little. I'm not saying he's going to do that. That was a joke.
Yes. All right. We're recording the show on Monday, and as a result of that, we got some late breaking news, at least as far as earlier today. Valiant did a big, I would say, press conference of sorts, a big event where they announced a bunch of, this is sort of following up something we talked about last week, that they're doing this big crossover with Ninjak, and that ShadowMan's going to be associated with it. Going forward, they announced a bunch of new titles, including ShadowMan in 2018.
Is Matt Kent writing it?
They have not revealed the creative on that. They revealed the artist in Greg Smallwood, but it's still under wraps who's actually writing the book.
Well, it's Valiant, so we could assume Fred Van Lente, Jeff Lemire,
or Matt Kent.
Or fucking Britannia. Milligan.
Yes. Funny you should bring up Peter Milligan. We know the Britannia's book had ended, but apparently it's coming back now. Britannia, We Who Are About to Die, issue 1 by Peter Milligan. That's an ongoing series that they announced. Rapture by Matt Kent. Secret Weapons. Faith and the Future Force.
Oh, God.
Eternity. And Quantum and Woody.
They're overexposing Faith. She's going to be in 3 books.
Yeah, I know. Well, they must be doing this for a reason. I don't think this is like a Marvel situation where they're just trying to overexpose the character because they feel the need to be, politically correct. I think it's because the character is genuinely over. When you're a publisher this small, you cannot be publishing books at a loss.
Presumably, yes. I don't know who's behind Valiant, but yeah, that would be a reasonable assumption.
But the thing that got me really excited is the Quantum and Woody. I know you were kind of reserved. You're like, oh great, another comedy book.
I'm not reading it for the show.
Oh,
I'm done with comedy books. When we talk about comedy books, we recap jokes. And they're not as funny because we're recapping them and there's nothing to say.
That's funny.
Like, I don't like doing comedy books.
That's funny because we're reviewing a very comedy intensive book this week.
We are?
Yes, we are. You'll know once we start reviewing it.
Oh. Excuse me.
Right.
Oh, hey guys, I played D&D for the first time today.
Nerd.
We're doing a comic book podcast.
I know. And you were
a lot of fun. I'm bad at the game, apparently.
Yeah, you were telling me the second weakest enemy in the game almost killed you.
Yes. D&D is all based around your rolls. And I am bad at rolling dice. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, the fact that you almost died so early.
The irony being when I rolled for my stats, I rolled very well.
It doesn't help that you almost died, though.
No.
Watch me tie this back into the show. Speaking of death, Valiant is teasing the death of a character in Harbinger Renegade issue 5.
We know Faith's not going to die because they just announced a new book.
Yes.
Peter might die. I picked the black girl.
I predict what's his name? Faith's ex-boyfriend.
Torque?
Yeah, I predict Torque.
I don't think Torque will die because Torque already got the shit kicked out of him.
Yeah, but the fact that they completely changed his character, they gave him the beard, but almost unrecognizable.
They don't have a powerhouse on the team. Like, if the team's gonna stay together, you need that physically strong character, and they don't have one. Whereas the other 2 characters are like, one of them she's a tactician?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Faith or Peter are somewhat capable of leading the team. She's superfluous. She's not needed.
Okay, as long as we're talking about people leaving the mortal plane, let's talk about people leaving. Greg Rucka has announced that he is leaving Wonder Woman in June's 25th issue.
And DC announced it's going to have an all-female creative team of 2 people or a writer I've never heard of. So, the only reason I was reading this book was because Greg Rucka was writing it, and I'm a fan.
Mm-hmm.
So I will give this 1 issue. It has 1 issue to win me over. I am not the type of person who will read a female superhero book just because a female writes it. I dropped Angela very quickly because it was bad. By a writer who I do not think is bad.
No.
Marguerite Bennett is not bad. It's just I didn't like that book.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Wonder Woman's one of your big characters. Like, she deserves a big name, and they're not giving it, and I find that disappointing.
The reason he cited was the twice a month release date for the book.
He's like, I can't do this anymore.
Which is funny, because you mean to tell me they won't change that book's release date for Greg Rucka?
No. They want it to come out twice a month, but the thing is, if the book's not as good, and I mean, I'm not being fair to the writer. She could be fantastic. The fact that I don't know her is going to lead to me reading the book, because sometimes you don't know someone and they're really fucking good. Like, that happens. That's how you find new people. It's just, I don't know about putting someone who's not really a name on a high profile book that has been getting pretty positive reviews for, because Greg Rucka's writing it.
My thing would, you couldn't meet him halfway, split the book into 2 titles if it's going to come out bi-weekly, have another writer write the other book that comes out in the month, and have Greg Rucka write the monthly.
I don't think they want to do that. I think they want one writer.
Isn't this what we ripped Marvel on for losing name talent?
They're not losing him. They didn't say he would be leaving DC. They just said he's leaving this book. So, I mean, he could still be writing something.
I don't know that he's writing anything else for DC though.
They'd want to keep him. But, I mean, yeah, you're right. We don't know.
I blame the folks that complained about the Frank Cho covers.
That has nothing to do. He said himself he's leaving because he doesn't want to do it twice monthly.
He's being nice. He's just being politically correct, unlike certain artists.
Frank Cho is hilarious, though. Those fucking fake covers he did.
Oh, those were great. The sketches he did for the fan, the Marvel ones, those were great.
Like that a lot.
Where Spider-Gwen was outraged.
Yeah, those were good.
All right, and to wrap up this week's news, a news story something that we don't normally talk about, but I wanted to talk about because I want to bury it. But DC announced they are doing an animated version of Watchmen.
Why?
I kid you not. When CBR posted this on their Twitter, there was about 24 responses, and half of them were simply, mine included, were just why.
Here's the thing. I predicted to you this was going to be like The Dark Knight or the Batman Year One, which were literally the comic animated. They changed nothing.
Nope.
Absolutely nothing. Given that, why do we need this?
I will say this. They changed some stuff in the live-action movie. In
the movie, they did. They changed one very large thing.
But with that said, 90% of the movie was faithful to the book.
Yeah, so why do you need another adaptation? Now, having said all this, I did decide last night after talking to you, I am going to watch this.
Oh, I am too. I don't know if I'm going to be watching it by legal means, but
I didn't say that. I just said I'd watch it.
I'm not as invested enough to where, if it's good, I'll say this. If it's good and somehow it manages to be different enough from the live action movie that I like it enough to buy it, I will put money down and actually own it.
It's just, does that mean if it, Mike?
Say that again?
Which I've already read. Like, what do you mean if it's good? Like, what determines if it's good? Will you say it's good if it's exactly like the comic? Why not just read the comic?
I'm also hoping for some decent animation as well. Some good voice acting. That's something you may have never got with the movie or with the book.
I don't know. I thought the movie good. I honestly, I thought the movie, except for what they changed, it stayed a little too close to the comic in a lot of ways, and it made me question why I was watching this. I'm gonna rewatch that movie.
And I will say this, if it's a home release, that presumes they're going to have a lot more time to tell a certain story. So we're talking maybe
the
3-4 hour
Raider shit in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they included that on the Watchmen DVD, I believe. They did it as in like an extra. But I don't know exactly what it was because I don't own the movie. I didn't like it enough. I'm not as big of a fan of Watchmen as I once was.
Mm-hmm. That's not the way you sounded last night when we were talking about Watchmen. You're like,
no, you asked, why was it important? And I said, well, it's the deconstruction of superhero, and you go explain that. Everybody always says that, and I explained it, and I still feel that it is, but it's just, do I care anymore? Like, in the years since Watchmen, do I need that story? Is it important, or have other people also done it more recently? Like, I just think that since it out there have been better comic books.
My only thing is, the only reason why I would think to do this is
it'll make money.
Well, that, but then also they're doing a big giant crossover next year with the Watchmen, and
we assume,
yeah, and that movie came out in 2009. So it'd be nice if people who, for whatever reason why, never got around to watching it, or at least people that watched it a long time ago and haven't watched since, they get a bit of a refresher course.
And the it is, they think it'll make money, and it will.
Yeah. I mean, we both admitted we're both going to watch it, so.
Yeah, so.
There you go.
Fair enough.
Alright, that's going to do it for this week's news.